to blame, but I'm angry.
We're going to get to the bottom of that. But first and foremost, let's introduce ourselves. Hello, and welcome back to the MMA Split podcast. I'm Matt.
I'm less than satisfied with the Fight Pass app on Xbox.
And his name is Josh. Sly is in Mallorca this time. God, this guy has some fun. He's still fitting around work and all the rest. So we have his picks. He's still very much participating in this week's pick show. He won't be on the podcast. No Spanish pizza this time round. But there is enough controversy, disappointment, excitement, unexpectedness, news, and a whole variety of things to talk about Bellator that we're going to keep you entertained. And
yeah,
I don't know. Do you want to start with Bellator just because it was the first thing that happened in the weekend? Full confession, I only watched the main event live and the Lima court fight. So let's touch on that. And it also
I just want to jump in. I just want to say that this isn't like David Miscavige's wife. We haven't done anything to Sly. He will be back. Like, it's not. Don't start calling the police or anything.
Yeah. This is not a. I was trying to come up with a serial killer that tried to pretend the victim was still alive for a few days, but I couldn't think of one.
I don't know. I'm just.
I do know one.
The trailer from Weekend at Bernie's in my head now.
I do know one, but it's really fucked up. I went to school with this guy called Mark Alexander. He was in my boarding house, but he was 2 years above me. So I only saw him. I was only at the school for him with him for 2 years. He ended up murdering his dad.
I can relate.
I
mean,
imagine.
That's awful. That is awful, though.
I'm going to be honest. The guy was an absolute prick. Not Mark. His dad was an absolute prick. It does not surprise me that this guy drove his own son to do something like this. Not condoning it at all. Horrific thing to do. Just don't speak to your parents. You're a grown up. You're over 18. It's fucking easy. They literally have no legal control over your life anymore. But he tried to cover it up by like burying his dad under cement in his own house, and then writing Christmas cards to the people that he'd usually write Christmas cards to, as well as telling everyone in the neighborhood that he'd gone on vacation.
I wasn't going to ask follow-up questions, but Matt, that sounds foolproof. How did he get caught?
People saw him. The handwriting was his on the notes that he wrote out pretending to be his dad. He was the last person to see his dad alive. Neighbors heard him having an argument, and people saw him ordering a bunch of cement into his dad's house when he never stayed at that house usually once he was at university. And it all coincided with his dad mysteriously vanishing and not being seen.
All right, well, okay, it doesn't sound foolproof at all. It sounds like a real slop job. But, yeah, fuck it. I've got more follow-up questions. Tell me more about his dad.
Absolute prick. From what I understand, the reason why, and this is how they knew they had motive, is that his dad was trying to force him to go to like a medical school or something like that. And he didn't or change universities to do his master's or his PhD. And he wanted to marry his girlfriend and stay with her. But this was a guy that like, I only met him once. And he came to the school. It was on one of those like picking the kids up, because I went to boarding school. So every now and again, like after 6 weeks, we get a weekend back. And this was one of those weekends. His dad came to pick him up and literally berated him for like a solid 15, 20 minutes for having a movie poster on his wall.
Yeah, I can relate.
I'm pretty sure he also went through like, I didn't see this, but I heard that he went through textbooks and like extracurricular stuff that he'd given him to study and check to see how scuffed the pages were, to see if it actually looked like somebody had flicked through them and saved bookmarks rather than just kept them on the shelf. So the guy was an absolute cunt. And no one can fuck a kid up worse than his parents. So, way I see it, crime of passion, argument. He probably struck him, got carried away, then realized the gravity of the situation and came up with a fairly harebrained, foolproof plot of how he was going to get away with it.
Yeah, I mean, if his dad was like a recluse that only ever communicated to people via Christmas cards, then that was a pretty foolproof kind of idea. I'm going to assume it was around Christmas time, yeah? He didn't get away with it. Like, he did it in the summer. He rode his luck for 6 months while the investigation carried out, and then he was like,
That one.
Christmas cards. That's
That
going
one.
to get me off the fucking... for real.
It wasn't quite summer, but it was enough away that he spent a few weeks keeping this up, and the Christmas cards.
So,
to be honest,
the shit being in his handwriting, I'm thinking, you know, if the investigation hasn't really like locked onto you, hey, maybe that's a stroke of genius. Otherwise, you're just like, why didn't I cut his hand off before I buried him in the cement? Could have done that shit in his handwriting.
I'd have to check the details. From what I remember, the thing that really made him very obvious is that everyone else stopped seeing this guy at exactly the same point. And the only person who kept going around to the house saying he was looking after it while his dad's away and saying he was communicating with his dad, who at this point they then proved from the body was very much dead, was Mark. So it was a fuck up. But this was only brought up to give an analogy and a joke as to why Sly's not here. We have not murdered him.
Suspicious as fuck now. Like,
we
have
not murdered him.
Costs
I don't even know where you order cement, man. I don't even know how to mix cement.
Sly speaks Spanish. We'll get him to order it for us. That's stage one. All right.
The only problem is, though, I'm playing on the same football team as him for the next season or so, and he's kind of our best defender, so I really need him. I'm the worst player on the team, and I'm also in defense. So Sly basically makes me not look as shit as I am.
The idea that there are reasons on the list above he is our friend and we need him for the podcast.
Well, I felt like those reasons didn't need saying. They're just unspoken reasons. They're just, without a doubt. But on top of those unspoken reasons are also some very practical reasons. Just in case you're a psychopath and you have no care or empathy towards Sly, I wanted to present rational reasons why his existence is still necessary.
All right. Yeah, I'll lay you off the hook. It's a good list. Yeah. I apologize for criticizing your list.
I do feel a little bit bad now that I didn't lead with that unspoken stuff, to be spoken regardless, but I'm sure our audience is going to understand. Should we stop talking about murdering and covering up Sly's body and talk about MVP versus Lima 2?
Yeah, man. I am so happy for our boy. I'm a huge, we are huge MVP fans, and go on, sorry, what are you going to jump in with that? We got the delay.
I was going to say, happy with his performance. I thought he approached it very, very tactically.
Yeah.
Very, very tactically. First and foremost, we can talk about the people saying that there's controversy. I didn't find it controversial. I thought he won the first 2 rounds. I thought if Lima had landed effective shots for 1.5 minutes in the first round on top, you could argue that would be a more effective use of his grappling. But he effectively was kept in full guards and he landed 1 strike. And I don't think that constitutes enough to overturn 2 knockdowns in 1 round. I just don't.
Yeah, I'm happy with the result. And I do like the, MVP showed a much more kind of measured and patient approach. The leg kick to uppercut that he got finished with in the first fight, Lima went for that a couple of times, maybe 3 times, 2 or 3 times. And
almost got it in the second round, man. That was...
Almost got it every time, but didn't. And I like that improvement because that's not just rushing in with disrespect for your opponent's speed and reaction and ability. That is rushing in with kind of, one eye on the exit. Just, if I need to get out of here, if I need to slip out again, I'm doing it. And he was doing it. He's so fast, MVP, that I really do think that he can, if he has enough respect for his opponents, almost never get hit. But, what we saw was a very close fight. This measured approach is great, but a 3-round fight, go ahead.
He had no room for error. That's the thing. I think he needed a little bit more volume. And one thing I do think, I personally think the fight should have been 5 rounds. I almost felt the pace they were fighting at, it almost felt like they were fighting a 5-round pace and it was kind of to build in. And I think one thing that was very clear in the 3rd round is the exploding kind of lunging right straight that he caught him with twice in the 1st round. And I think again within the 2nd round. Lima had timed that. He'd figured that out and he was using that as a grappling entry. And it would have been interesting to see what would have happened in rounds 4 and 5 because it felt like Lima was starting to take the momentum back. Now, obviously, MVP's knowing that he's in the 3rd round, he'll probably feel he's 3 rounds up. don't do anything stupid. So if it's a 5-round fight, he's going to be different. But it was so measured, it was so cautious that, I mean, even with the first round, I think he won. Lima only needed maybe 3 or 4 hard strikes on the ground, and he would have swayed that extra judge, in my mind. And this is the kind of room for error that it was a split decision, so that you're already cutting it very, very close. It could have gone very wrong. And I still think that he needs to work. He did a really good job at negating the position off his back, but there didn't seem to be the kind of urgency I would expect from somebody dealing with a Douglas Lima to get up. There were positions he could have put his feet on the hips. He could have tried to get up. He could have been more active. And I think that's going to be a worry if they ever fight again. It's going to be a massive concern if he fights Amosov for the belt. Massive concern.
They will fight again. I think he's going to go for the trilogy fight before going for Asimov. But I don't know why people don't kind of talk about it this way more. The truth is that we didn't know how good MVP was against fighters of Douglas Lima's standard. And then they meet in the welterweight Grand Prix and he gets finished. And for me, the big thing was, well, if he wasn't fighting like an idiot, would he have been finished? So I'm very, very happy with the result. I'm very happy to see that MVP for sure can hang with the guys of this caliber. But like you say, he's in the first round, I felt like he was pretty good off his back, threatening things a little bit, kind of busy with the strikes. This is the one thing this weekend that we actually have already talked about a little bit. And I said, if I'm MVP, I'm just watching Chael Sonnen against Anderson Silva the first time on a loop and just thinking about different setups and different ways to kind of lock up that triangle and just get really good at looking up really tight triangles. Because with his frame, his long legs, he's never going to get to a place where he's not getting taken down. If he goes against a guy like Asimov, he's getting taken down pretty much at will. So then it just becomes, you can't control the tide of the fight, but can you generate a big moment? Can you snatch some momentum back? Can you make him think twice about sitting in your guard? Can you find ways to get him to disengage so you can get back to the feet? And
what you can't do is throw that lunging right straight. It worked in the first round. It worked in the second round. Lima had it figured out. Wrestlers are going to be straight under that. He needs to be thinking uppercuts, knees, timing that knee.
Yeah.
And for the Lima fight, I need it to be 5 rounds. I've got to be honest. I don't want to see a 3-round fight. I think these guys, at the way that they fight, the level that they are, they're patient fighters. They're guys that are built well to compete over 5 rounds, particularly against each other. And it's a test that I want to see from MVP as well, because he squeaked this and he lost the 3rd round. It might have been a different story if it was 5 rounds. And that's a question that I would like answered as a fan.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think it's going to happen. I think we're going to get the trilogy fight next. Pretty sure it's going to be a 5-rounder this time. And what I would just say about with Asimov, though, is I'm not saying there's a big speed difference between him and Diego Lima, but Diego Lima's stand-up game, his experience, his reactions, yeah. I don't know if he's going to be able to deal with MVP's striking anywhere near as effectively as Lima has. So it's an interesting one, but I definitely, even if he gets like a couple more fights under his belt before he takes that fight, there's no way I'm putting money on MVP. Unless the odds are fucking ridiculous and it's just like yeah, fuck it, why not? But he would not be favored in any scenario.
Well, listen, usually this would be the point where we touch on what's happening next for Douglas Lima, but it sounds like trilogy fight, easily done.
I was saying Diego again, didn't I? Sorry.
It's hard, man. I think I was doing it as well. Fucking Mondays, man. Fucking Mondays.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I saw the knockout. I didn't really watch too much of the rest of the card. There weren't any names that stood out, but it seemed to be a pretty decent showing. Great crowd in London. Great audience. Always great fight fans in the UK. So that was good to see. Final thing I'll say on MVP. He's a confident guy. He started his celebration a good 5 or 6 seconds before the split decision got announced in his favor. And that's just one of those things where, it looks cool when you're finishing off the celebration as they call your name. You've got egg on your face ×2 if they lift the other guy's hand.
I know the thing is, the guy's got so much fucking ego and mouth when he's doing press or in the post-fight speech or pre-fight, whatever build-up. But the truth is, like, when you actually interview this guy or get him on a microphone, you know, when he has no agenda and nothing to push or nothing to sell or plug, you know, he's a very down-to-earth, very humble, modest guy. I like that he does this shit, because if it does go wrong, I know he can take it. Like, his ego is superficial. None of that runs deep. Like, if the decision went the other way, you might see a comical overreaction, like, what the fuck? Or you might even just see him clap his hands. I don't know. I just know that deep down in his heart, this guy can take it. So I like it. I like the confidence.
I liked my favorite one of his that I did think was really funny was the Pokemon ball. It was in the most inappropriate fight. Like, inappropriate fight. He didn't know what he'd done to fucking Man Cyborg at the time. But, oh my word. It was
I call me a cyborg.
He puts the ash cap on. Worth watching on YouTube for our audience if you ever get the chance. Anyway, shall we move across to the UFC? Because
yeah, let's do it.
Not saying that we got a good time to break down, but we've certainly got shit that needs to be addressed. And let's start with the main event. You might have different thoughts on this, but goddamn fucking commentators. They jinxed it. I jinxed it. We all fucking jinxed it. All of us saying, not a chance this gets out of the second, third round. Not a chance. These guys are coming to swing. And instead, we got Francis Ngannou versus Derek Lewis. We got Cyril Gane versus Jairzinho.
It wasn't as bad as Ngannou Lewis. There's bad fights, then there's that fight. You know, don't.
I'm not saying it's in that category though, dude. It is in that category.
Yeah, it was disappointing, but I think when one of the fighters is 37, you know, I kind of see this coming. I didn't think this is the way the fight was going to go, but I certainly think it's a possibility when you've got one guy with a glass chin and the other guy's old as fuck with shaky knees. I'm like, yeah, they very well may just pace themselves. I didn't think Santos was going to fight as long as he did, but, you know, he made it work. Well, he made it work well enough.
He didn't make it work brilliantly because he lost, but this was another one of those.
Thiago Santos won.
Thiago Santos made it work. I thought you said Johnny Walker did well.
No, I said Santos. I wouldn't be surprised if Walker's fighting long, although this was a much more considered and thought out game plan than we usually see from him. I was surprised that Santos, you know, try to fight at such great distance against a guy with that much height and reach over him, you know?
Do you know what I think it was, man? I have far less blame on this for Thiago Santos because he's coming off three. He went from challenging John Jones and almost winning the title, split decision loss, to dropping three, having the horrific knee injury, the coming back from surgeries, all the rest. And he's dealing with a guy who's 6'6" with long arms for his height. I kind of felt that you could just tell he was looking at it, trying to figure out, how do I get in safely on this guy? Where's the route? How can I close this distance? And it became a little bit of a kicking match, but he just kicks so much harder. You'd see Walker land a leg kick and it was a tap. And then you'd hear Santos thud those leg kicks in, thud those body kicks in. And it really swung those rounds. I don't think he outlanded Walker in a single round, but it was just that his blows were the effective, damaging shots that you could tell. Yeah, and I think...
Bring up the stats.
They might have changed it, but I certainly feel that... And this kind of ended up doing Johnny Walker no favors because, you know, I mean, John Kavanagh's had a lot of criticism early this week for some of his advice in the corner, particularly going into the last round, where he basically just said, yeah, I think you're ahead. Try to win the last round. Just feint. Just keep feinting. And didn't really press in any sort of desire or urgency to go out there and win. And you juxtapose that to like a James Krause when he was coaching, who was it in his corner? We're really hot on this kid. He's just gone up to lightweight.
Oh, Grant Dawson.
And he says to him after 2 rounds, he's just like, listen to me, motherfucker. I don't know. This could be 2-0 to us. It could be 2-0 to him. It could be 1-1. Doesn't matter. You've got to go out there and get the fucking finish. There wasn't that to Johnny Walker. And I mean, listen, he listened to his coaches brilliantly. He went from being a wild, crazy guy to a very disciplined, tactical fighter in this performance. but too much so. There was no risk. There was no urgency. And I think there was just this feeling of just that he was winning a fight that was really close and got bad advice.
Yeah, I'm not agreeing with the advice, but I will just say Kavanagh has always kind of been like that. He likes fighters to fight a bit more relaxed. He doesn't want a guy like Johnny getting knocked out in the 5th round on a fight that they may win on decision. I think that's probably his thought process. I don't agree with it, but I know he writes about it in his book or ghost-written book, Win or Learn, that in the Gunnar Nelson fight against, I think, Rick Story, he knew he had no chance of winning the fight, but he just didn't want him to get fucked up any further. So he told him just to that he was winning the fight, to just not engage too much, try and take him down, and just lay on top and just ride it out. And
that's a very specific situation, though. I think this is one of those where it's like, it was on the last round. It was on the last round.
Yeah, and again, I'm not agreeing with him, but sorry, I was going to say Johnny Walker had been exposed after the 2nd round onwards. He's not technical enough to just pick a guy apart from distance. He needs to have these wild exchanges where he might get knocked out, he might knock someone out. And I totally disagree with the advice that Kavanagh gave, but I could totally see it in his own head being like, we may win this one, but if he engages, we'll almost certainly lose it. Worst case scenario, we just go back to trying to develop this fighter into a guy that can actually pick someone apart, because outside of the 1st round, I wasn't really too impressed with Walker's striking.
No, everything was the openings. Little jab, little leg kick, move around, leg kick. He wasn't actually taking any risk to land anything significant. So it looks impressive to a certain extent because you're moving around and you're just doing your thing. But you've got to add the pieces on top of that to win a fight at the elite level. And he just never really added the pieces on top. And, it's interesting. If we were to sort of have a balancing seesaw with Johnny Walker, and it's time before Kavanagh, far too much on the wild, crazy, explosive, unorthodox stuff. I think he's become a little bit too tamed. I think this is the balance he's got to find out. He was so disciplined in listening to his corners and his coaches, and that's great. But you've got to still have, you've got to have that element of what got you to the dance. It's like, I'll take Dustin Poirier as a really good example. Okay, Dustin Poirier is an excellent technical fighter. He went from a guy that was basically a brawler, just going in there, trading punches, all heart and grit and determination, and has refined that and developed that skill. But he's still got that mentality in him. He still smells blood in the water. He still takes risks. He still engages in inside brawl fighting, but he just sets it up much better. He picks his moments. You have to keep that element of yourself. And for me, with Johnny Walker, the way to approach this isn't just to pick him apart on the outside for 5 rounds. It's to do that, frustrate him, do something that's not going to, that's going to take advantage of your reach and force him to have to make some mistakes and commit forward, and then set up the wild, crazy stuff. It can still be there. You just have to set it up. You have to know when to use it at the right moments.
Well, the building blocks are there, but if he is going to develop that, I think this is the right base. We're probably going to have to see a tamer Johnny Walker until we can see the right Johnny Walker. But
that's a good
it was
point.
weird.
I didn't think about it like that.
He was either striking or he was feinting. I didn't really see a lot of feinting and then striking. He didn't feint to open up strikes. He just feinted to move Thiago Santos around. He just feinted to kind of control like his position in the center of the octagon, and sometimes kind of establish the right distance and then, do nothing with it. So I feel like if he can mix it all up, then, he has to be a bit of a tamer fighter deep down, because truth be told, he's in a weight class where having a good chin isn't really enough, and he hasn't got a good chin. He's got a bad chin. So he's going to run into all kinds of trouble with the top ranked guys at light heavyweight, unless he can really kind of ape more of a John Jones style, be aggressive with like your volume and shot selection rather than just rushing in. John Jones is great at just having a suffocating offense that, Johnny Walker certainly has the frame and the athletic ability to kind of mimic. If anything, he's a little faster and a little longer, but obviously just a shit ton of holes in his stand-up game. So
Well, listen,
John Kavanagh's not a bad coach. Yeah, guys, sorry.
no. I was just going to interject and say I understand all of that. You can fight long and still be effective and land significant strikes. It's just he wasn't sitting down on anything. And the other thing is it's not really like Thiago Santos was biting on that much. I mean, listen, he never got reckless and he was always aware that that big shot was there. But it's not like he was really moving Santos around that much. Santos was reasonably flat-footed. Santos was kind of just conserving his energy and looking for his moments to land a hard body kick or a hard leg kick and trying to set more up. There wasn't really a big sense of danger. And I think this is the thing. The feints, the jabs, the leg kicks, they all have to be these building blocks that work with each other to set up the bigger strikes. And once you realize that a guy's not really going to commit, it changes your fear factor. You're not going to react to it in the same way. So like you say, round one, Santos is biting on the feints. Two, I think he just realized that there wasn't going to be a lot coming. The two, the three, the four, the right hand, it wasn't going to be following what he was doing. It made it a lot easier to settle and get a much needed win. I'll be honest though, at 37, with the injuries he's had, he's not the same guy.
But he marches forward, so he's going to get a juicy fight next.
If they don't give the Rakic fight to Smith, I think they give Santos Smith. They fought at middleweight. It's a light heavyweight rematch. And Anthony Smith will look at his last few fights and think, I've got him. Hook, line, and sinker. I'm doing this. He's doing this.
Yeah. And, if he's just going to take this kind of slow approach, try and do a bit more damage, try and steal rounds, he's not going to get far. It's going to be a tough outing for him. Johnny Walker gets some much needed experience. And no one really rates Johnny Walker too much since his first kind of 2 UFC fights. So this isn't really much of a drop off for him. Good main event experience, 5-round fight, first time in his career. Certainly a lot of film for them to go away and analyze. And I certainly feel like the building blocks are there for what the game plan should be. So I have no problem with the camp he's at or anything like that. I don't think he's ever really going to achieve anything, but still, fuck it. I'll never write him off.
When you're number 10 and you fight number 5, you don't lose that much if you lose.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a fight. Let's move away from this. Let's talk about a fight where nobody won. Literally nobody won. Even the guy who's, he definitely didn't win. Holland didn't win. Daukaus certainly didn't win. We didn't win as fans. Dan Murgiada certainly didn't win because he basically just got over fucking ruled by Herb Dean, and thank fuck so. But yeah, for those of you who didn't see it, would like a recap. We were expecting fireworks. We got about 3 minutes of really good fun and some interesting questions being answered and a strong dynamic being opened up. And then a head clash. And not a head clash where an equal part of the head of each person lands. No. One where Kyle is coming upwards with the hard part of his forehead, just as Kevin Holland is moving across, revealing his temple. Smacked on the temple.
It was chin, wasn't it?
It was this kind of area.
I just saw him clock him on the inside of his chin with his forehead as he was coming across. I just saw
forehead's a big target. It hits a wide circumference.
Whack of him.
So he got chin, he got temple, but knocked out. I mean, flash knockout, face first, hits the ground. Dan Murgiada almost stops it, but then because Kevin Holland's such a tough bastard, keeps fighting on in a very clear, not quite got his bearings mode, ends up getting choked out. And they end up taking it to review. And this is this awkward thing because the replay had already been called, but then a fight finishing sequence happens. And they have this awkward debate where they're basically trying to decide whether or not they consider the headbutt as enough of a significant factor due to the fact that Kevin Holland kept fighting. And in the end, they made the decision that it clearly affected the fight, the position, how he could react to it, and we had a no contest. Now, Josh Thompson had a very similar situation happened, and he had it go the other way. They didn't give him any allowance on this, and it was ruled as a win for the other guy. And when he tried to appeal it to the commission, they basically said, well, you kept fighting, so it clearly didn't affect you. So I'm really happy that they did it this way. Kyle is fuming, and he makes a very good point, which is that if Kevin Holland had survived that, got to round 2, and then knocked Kyle out, no replay, no contest. He's on ESPN talking about what a great knockout. And I do understand that, and then I will jump across to you, Josh. I feel the difference in that is that, well, yeah, you're not the guy who got affected by the headbutt. So, of course, if it goes the other way, it's a different situation. But he's the one that got knocked the fuck out. Like, it's not an even situation. As soon as that happened, whether it's your fault or not, whoever you thought was winning the fight, losing the fight, it doesn't matter. We've got an end of a fair contest due to an illegal strike.
Yeah, I mean, let me put it a different way for you as well. If Kevin Holland had got to round 2 and then Daukaus had gone on to finish him later in the fight or even take a decision, this would also not be a no contest. It's an accidental clash of heads. There was no way to penalize either fighter for it. And, you know, it would have been a lot simpler if he had finished him there and then. And Mergliotta could have just kind of gone back to the replay and just thought about it as just an immediate kind of fight ending sequence rather than like more of a prolonged one. But, you know, I think it's the right result. I think they should just run it back. It's not a big deal for me. Daukaus, you know, he seems to take it well in the cage. I haven't had a chance to catch up much on like the afterthoughts, but if he's feeling salty about it, you know, fair enough. I'm not going to hold it against him.
I don't think he can be salty towards Kevin Holland though. Kevin Holland more pissed off. No. Kevin looked more pissed off than anybody that it was going to be declared a no contest. And his post-fight press conference, he said, as far as he's concerned, he lost twice because he got knocked out and choked out in one fight.
Well, this is the same guy that felt bad that they didn't get a run back that Darren Stewart won because he wasn't too happy with the decision where he won there as well. The guy, love him or hate him, he wears his heart on his sleeve. He just says, you know, how he feels things. And we saw a guy that was on a hot streak, beating guys he shouldn't be beating, like Jacare, and then seemed to not just come undone technically and exposed with his with his takedown defense, but it seemed to crack mentally. And it's just nice to have him back.
Well, to touch on that, I feel like Derek Brunson has broken a lot of people recently. I mean, he broke Edmund Shabazian. He broke Darren Till. Darren Till was more broken than fucking Kevin Holland was at the end of that fight, dodgy knees or not. And he effectively fought the two guys in his weight class who one might be, one's just competed for the title. The other guy could very well be the next in line after Robert Whittaker. And they're also the two guys that have the quintessentially perfect style to beat a guy like Kevin Holland. Now, he was fighting Kyle. He'd clearly improved his wrestling takedown defense. Clearly improved it.
You know what he's doing for his wrestling, right?
He's working with Johnny Hendricks now.
Yeah, which I really don't know how I feel about that. Like you say, he looked a much improved fighter from the last two outings for sure.
You know why
the headbutt.
You know why he is working with Johnny Hendricks? It's because Johnny Hendricks lives in Texas.
Yeah, no, I know it's two good old boys, but Johnny Hendricks never screamed to me, I love this sport. I'm gonna carry on as a coach. You know, nothing about Johnny Hendricks made you think that he was really gonna do anything after he moved up to middleweight. I don't know. I don't know. And that, from what I've read, that does seem to be like a bit of a bond there as well, which is weird because I can't imagine two more different guys. Johnny Hendricks can kind of be a bit of a bitch, very whiny. Kevin Holland just talk shit all the time, constantly running his mouth. I don't understand how they live in a world where they're not just constantly at each other's throats. But fuck it.
To quote a insanely catchy song from the 90s, maybe they stick together because opposites attract.
Shameless. Absolutely shameless. Yeah, maybe. Fucking maybe. Long may it continue.
I was really impressed with Kevin Holland's takedown defense. He's so fucking funny. He just is. I mean, the two lines he had in the cage that night where he stops the first takedown, he's just like, a little better, DC, a little better, right? And then on the opposite side of the cage, DC's talking about how long and lanky Kyle Daukaus is. He's just so long to deal with, man. And immediately in a grappling clinch position against the cage, Kevin Holland starts going, oh, he's so long, DC, so long. And then you have Fitzy come in straight after and say, the amazing thing is, they're on the opposite side of the cage. He's not like looking at us as he's doing this. He's overhearing us from the back over there and still responding.
Oh man, I wish I could have watched it with the volume up now.
It was funny, man.
The thing I'd say
about Holland, though, and to be honest, this is what ended up leading to the no contest. It's my biggest fear about him, more than the takedown defense. He's not polished enough with the striking. He relies so much on his explosivity that he lunges in, he overreaches on a bunch of stuff. And really that shot happens because he's lunging in carelessly. That's how the headbutt ends up landing. Now, Kyle was lunging up as well, so it's just one of those awkward things, but I don't want to see him think, and then fighters can do this. Dan Hardy's talked about this after the GSP fight, where you go away thinking, striking, got that down to a T, just need to work on the takedown defense and then we're all good. And actually, no, there's things you need to keep working on in the striking. People have seen what you do on the feet. They're learning from this. They see what you like to set up. They see how you like to do it. This needs to still be improved on, along with the wrestling, along with the takedown defense. It needs to be a complete package. And if he works on that and lunges in less, I don't think Kyle Daukaus was going to end up winning that fight, which is a bold thing to say when you only saw 2 minutes, but he was fighting so outside of what he likes to do. Like very much like they said to him, listen, key to this guy, just take him down and it's done. Just take him down and it's done. If Kevin Holland in the rematch can keep the takedown defense, I don't think that strategy is going to work well long-term for Kyle, particularly if he's not used to implementing that kind of game plan. You disagree with me. I can tell it in your eyes.
Oh, no. We are very high on Chris Daukaus. We are not at all impressed with Kyle Daukaus. Sorry, Kyle. I don't think you're ever going to watch this, so I'm not going to feel too bad about saying it. But
it's not about Sorry, go ahead.
The guy has some weapons, you know. The guy can throw. The guy is tough. He can grapple a fair bit, but there's no part of Kyle Daukaus that I see, you know, really panning out as like a top 15 fighter. And the guys he's fought are the exact people you want to see him fight against to get an idea of where he fits into the landscape. Because it's always very much been guys at his level. This might be the first kind of step up, kind of reach, getting Kevin Holland. But Daukaus hasn't blown me away. Thing is, though, sometimes you see fighters kind of middle around a little bit, and there could be loads of different factors. Sometimes they just haven't bloomed yet. You know, they just haven't hit. They haven't put it all together. Sometimes they've got external factors going on. You never fucking know. Sometimes you get a real dog shit fighter turn in to just a lights out champ. And it's hard to kind of say that Kyle Daukaus will never be any fucking good. But I just kind of see him as someone that he's got kind of a fan-friendly style, but it's not like made for highlight reels. It's, you know, he's never going to be put in the most exciting fighters list. I'm kind of going to be glad to see him stick around in the UFC for as long as he can, but I think that's all he's going to achieve, just how long he can stick around. Kevin Holland, on the other hand, as patchy as his fucking game is, there's the fucking star potential there, for sure. Not just in terms of like his fucking mouth, but his actual, his abilities, his knockout power. Go ahead.
I was going to say, just touching on Kyle Daukaus, it's not even so much an ability thing. It's just how many times have we said that, and how many times have we seen a striker with striking conditioning try to implement a wrestling heavy game plan for a fight without doing the proper conditioning beforehand and being kind of used to it over sort of a couple of years of doing that and exhausting themselves because it's a different muscle group. It's not what they're naturally more conditioned and used to dealing with.
Yeah, I think what grappling he does is pretty much just jiu-jitsu as well, which is totally, you do not build up that wrestling stamina in any way, shape, or form doing jiu-jitsu. Wrestlers are a breed of their own.
So I think it would be interesting. I wonder if he's going to try and implement the same game plan of just take Holland down, or if he's going to try and mix it up a little bit better with the strikes. We're going to find out. Colin wants it back as soon as possible. Kyle's kind of saying he doesn't want to fight before his brother fights.
Are you shortening it to Holland? K Holland Holland.
Can we? That would save a lot of time.
Sorry, man. I think my headphones might have skipped a bit. I thought you said it twice. And then I thought, is everyone saying that? Because I kind of like that.
Mate, I'm saying it from now on. Holland.
Oh,
Holland.
Shit. Did we just have a moment?
Here we go, mate. We're starting a new thing.
Another catchphrase Sly's not here for. He's going to
we'll
love it when he finds out about this one.
He's going to love it. It's exactly the kind of nickname he'd appreciate as well. Right, let's talk about some of these other fights. I'm going to be honest. I thought the prelims were fucking spectacular. Little disappointed in obviously the way that the main two fights ended up going. This fight was the one I was so sure was going to be a barn burner, and I really enjoyed it, but I felt awkward about the whole thing because Nico Price walks out exactly as you expect Nico to be. Happy, amped up, ready to go. And we're waiting there, expecting without question that we're going to get the smiling, happy to be there, dancing Cowboy Oliveira. And he's literally in tears on his way out. I mean, like full on weeping and crying with his corner trying to pep him up and motivate him for the fight. And I don't know if he got some really bad news, if he knew this was his last fight on his contract, or if this was going to be his last fight. Obviously, we had a retirement earlier, but he was not in a good place. He was not himself, and he didn't start the fight like himself.
I mean, yeah, he didn't look himself, but he's also old as fuck. So I wasn't I've always been expecting, there to be that kind of constant deterioration. I know exactly the point you're making. I did kind of feel like really up until the last sort of 20 seconds of the fight, I think he won that fight.
Yeah, well, he won the second round. Nico Price won the third round.
And I felt like the third round, Nico was fading. Cowboy looked good. And then Nico is in a close fight, in a close round still. I'm not saying it was a one-sided round. It was a close round that I kind of had in my head, like this is kind of Cowboy. And then Nico just sort of turns it on for the last half minute, gets that takedown, puts on that strong statement. It's such a cliche in MMA, like finish the round strong, sway the judges. I've never really seen judges back up this idea, this methodology that, they give greater weight to the last 20 seconds. But in this case, I think it really fucking did win him the fight.
It was just going to Oliveira, and it's so interesting because when that takedown happens, Oliveira's in the much better position. He's kind of half on his back against the cage, and he has an opportunity to try and take Nico Price down. But Cowboy was so exhausted that he tried to, it's kind of classic prevent defense. He just tried to kind of hold and keep the position, thinking, I hold this for 15 seconds, I've won the fight. Because he just holds there and he kind of relaxes a little bit, doesn't sort of, is trying to hang on. Nico senses that, twists it around, gets the takedown, and clinches that round with his work rate. And it just came down to who had more left in the tank. This is two runners at the end of a 10K, and who's got that last little bit to push ahead on the final straight and get there. And that's what it came down to. And this was a make or break fight. We talked about this. This was the bounce back card. Whoever lost on any of these fights, it was going to be a bit of an awkward spot. And, that's, I think, 3 in a row now, or certainly, quite a few defeats, not many wins in his last fights for Oliveira. Nico Price was on a 2-fight skid here, and he hasn't got the name. He hasn't got the history in the UFC. No guarantees he's kept along if he loses this fight. So big win for him. Happy for him. Between the two of them, they've got something like 19 children. So my favorite tweet that was on the card that happened live from one of the other fighters, I can't remember who it said. He said, okay, can we all agree that the loser of this fight has to get a vasectomy?
Oh, man. In a lot of ways, I feel like Nico Price lost as well, though. There's no part of me that thinks that Nico Price is ever going to be anything more than he currently is. Cowboy is a fucking legend. He's on the decline. I think that is his third loss in a row. Certainly, almost certainly gone. He had a round of culling last week. We're gonna have some more this week, I'm sure. Nico Price, I used to be really excited for his fights. Now I kind of wonder, unless he's going to be like the proving ground for new guys coming in, I don't really understand what his value is to me as a fan. Is that harsh?
I think he does well. He can land a big punch, and if other guys want to brawl, he can get into a brawl, but it's just a little bit too easy to pick him apart.
Yeah.
Everything's wild. Everything swings with 100%. Nothing set up. There's no jabs. Doesn't really use kicks very well. Doesn't keep his range very well. He closes the distance too much and leaves himself open for counters. He's very beatable if you're technical. If you're a Vicente Luque, you'll have a great fight with him. You'll still win, but if you want to brawl, he's going to brawl back, and he might win, you might win. But I just think it's a little too easy. Like, look at the Michel Pereira fight. He kind of started landing in the third round, but it was pretty easy for Michel to just kind of keep on the edge. He spent 12 minutes of that fight in zero danger. And that's, Michel Pereira will do that to guys, but that's a problem.
Yeah, man, I'd like to see him in something like PFL, where, take a little step down. Well, not in terms of all the guys you fight, but in terms of at least some of them. I think the scoring system makes his style a bit more exciting. He's creatively violent, but he's just not a good MMA fighter.
Moving on, Misha Serkinov lost to Jotko. I'm delighted because I needed this one at this point for my picks to level things out. We'll get to our results on the picks once we get through the prelims. This was not the most entertaining fight of either. I was
moving on.
Disappointed with Serkinov, and I was not overly enthralled with Jotko, although I definitely think he did enough to win the fight.
Yeah, just again, it's kind of the same how I feel about Nico Price. This was an easy card to be cynical on in places. I would just as soon move on from this fight, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Let's move on to Alexander Hernandez. I don't like this guy. He is certainly not the best Alexander the Great by any stretch of the imagination. At best, he's the third best Alexander the Great.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's fair. That's more than fair.
Yeah. I mean, even Volkan, and obviously we know who number one is. Like, Volkanovski is great. He didn't fucking conquer Persia. You know what I mean? I mean, fucking levels to this game and shit.
Redefined ambition.
Yeah. What's the fucking quote in? I was going to try and say it in Latin, but I can't remember. Fortune favors
the one who weeps for there are no more lands to conquer.
Oh, I don't know that one in Latin. I was going to try and say, what is it? Fortuna es something. Fortune favors the bold. Who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck? I was trying to be a posh.
I didn't go to a fancy school.
I was trying to be a posh show off twat there for a second. Please excuse me, audience. I will refrain from that immediately. Alexander the Great, Hernandez. This was good from him. This was really good. He should have beaten this guy. This was a short notice replacement, UFC debut, but you still got to beat the guy. And if you can beat him impressively and make a statement, do it. And he did it. And he called out the right guy. Wants to fight Leonardo Santos, who was the guy he was meant to fight. And I think that's a much bigger test for him.
Yeah. And at the end of the right time of Santos' career from Hernandez's point of view. So
very true.
Yeah, the guy finally fucking lost. He is so old it hurts. Just perfect time for Hernandez to sweep in.
Couldn't agree more. Let's get to these prelims. Prelims, I had a huge amount of fun in. Prelims, I had a lot of high hopes for the card after these prelims. And didn't always turn out the way. Starting off with a big surprise, Jared Gordon. Man, I might not have picked this one right, but fuck me. Fair play to you, man, because I thought you were dead to rights in that fucking rear naked choke in the first round. And to pull it back and grind it out the way that you did, well done, mate. Because that's 2 or 3 fights in a row now where I've been pretty sure that you were going to lose. And you were expected to lose, and you found a way to win. So hats off to you, man. Joe Selecki, I think he just burnt out.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing with Selecki is he's such a good grappler that it's when you have two grapplers nullifying each other, it's easy to think that maybe they're tired or maybe one's not as good as the other. But Jared Gordon just fucking willed his way after that first round, just willed his way into winning that fight. And I really didn't know which way it had gone. I could have maybe given it to Selecki that third round. I wasn't sure. But Flash Gordon came out and put the fucking business on him in the second round. Huge turnaround.
Yeah.
And it makes me, we like talking about Flash. We have a hard time picking against him when we do it. I didn't have the volume up, but I have read about this one. So he called out Paddy Pimblett, right?
Yeah.
And I heard he referenced like having beat Chris Fishgold. So there's a lot of reasons that this would be a good fight, but more than anything, this is exactly the kind of guy I want to see Paddy fighting next.
Couldn't agree more.
So that Paddy can really show off his like grappling ability as well, because Paddy Pimblett is so fucking good on the ground. And people that haven't seen Cage Warriors just have no idea yet. I can't wait for this fight.
That would be an excellent fight. It's a good matchup. And you know what? I was looking at, he did lose 3 in a row, but fucking the 3 in a row he lost to Diego Ferreira, Charles Oliveira, and then before that was Joaquim Silva. So he was fighting some fucking killers. And now he's on 4 in a row, 4 wins in a row. So he's putting it together. I think he'd be a good match for Paddy Pimblett, and great result for him. Standout performer of the prelims, though, for me, stand up King Casey O'Neill. You might be a chick, but you still got King in your name and you pull it off. She destroyed Antonina Shevchenko.
Yeah, I mean, just Australia in the house.
Well, different level on the ground. And I felt
we
sorry.
Saw that coming, though.
Well, Antonina had a little bit of false hope because she showed massive wrestling improvement in her last fight. So I think maybe she was surprised. Like she thought she'd worked on some things. And obviously she's always dangerous standing up. But Casey O'Neill can be so reckless because it doesn't matter if she charges in. She just has to get close. Yeah, and then she's got you. And she's ferocious. I mean, the ground and pound, the top control. She's got wicked jiu-jitsu. She can threaten jiu-jitsu submissions as well. She's just a problem. She doesn't give a fuck. She's willing to fight. She's got I want to say an attitude, but she's got that competitor's spirit in her. She's willing just to get in there, trade punches, get her hands and finish the fight. And I think she's going to be ranked. I think she's going to move up very quickly in this division.
Well, you know, when you represent Scotland and Australia, there's no way you haven't got a little bit of a dog in you. So, yeah, Casey O'Neill just fucking lights out. This is a fun fight. I picked submission, but I knew it was going to be a finish.
Yeah, I was confident, but obviously with the striking, you always think if Antonina can keep it on the feet, she's going to be dangerous. But Casey was just in her face the whole time. She didn't give her space to be able to operate and utilize any range or kicks. And yeah, dominated. I don't know who she fights next, but I think there's a lot of fighters on the decline in this women's flyweight division, particularly sort of from like 6 to 15. She could move up quickly. She could get a couple of big name fights, a couple of big name wins, and blink. And by this time next year, she could be top 5.
I think they might put her against like a Roxanne Modafferi. You know, while Roxy's still got some name value, a little bit of a good scout, a good name to have on your record.
Yeah. The question
and
I would
actually
have,
quite a good test as well, just given Roxy's kind of ground game.
The only question I have is how she handles the athleticism of some of the other young girls that are coming through around the same point. So I think Tyler Santos, I think Vivian Araujo, I think Miranda Maverick and Macy Barber. These are strong women. These are very powerful, athletic women. And that's the only thing I'd say. She doesn't feel like she has the same kind of sort of muscle mass. And obviously she's very technical. But, you know, you look at somebody like Gillian Robertson, who to a lot of girls at flyweight, she can just manhandle on the ground. But then when she's fought these bigger, stronger girls, women, I should say, sorry, women, they're young women, but still women. That's disrespectful. She just wasn't able to compete. And I think that might be the challenge for a Casey O'Neill. But certainly your Jessica Eyes, your Roxanne Modafferi's, your Andrea Lee's, I just think she beats.
Yeah, I think so. How old is she? She's still quite young, right? Early 20s.
I'll tell you.
So,
She is.
she's gonna get a little stronger as she goes anyway. I think
She
Casey O'Neill
is
could be a real fun
23.
fight to keep your eye on. 23, yeah. But a fucking babe. Um, Casey O'Neill's got plenty of room to grow, I think, in this division. But yeah, I understand your point. It'd be good to see that kind of test, though, because the truth is, it doesn't really matter how big you are. If the technique's there and the grappling nullifies it, and frankly, you can't train your chin. So Casey O'Neill can hit girls pretty hard too, as long as she's not getting stung too bad. I always give her a chance.
Very nice. Let's move on to women I was very harsh on until I realized this was her last ever fight, and that's why they brought her back from the cut so that she could have a final fight and retire. Becca Hare taking on Carol Rosa. I mean, this was pretty much what we expected. Just
Yeah,
Carol Rosa is nasty. Those knees down the middle.
everything was just total mismatch. Enjoyed every second of it. I'm not going to shit on Gahaya after her last fight, but never been a fan. Carol Rosa looked about as good as you can look when you're fighting someone like Betch Gahaya. I think it's pretty much the fairest thing we could say, hand on heart. But yeah, this was a fun fucking fight. I'm looking at the strike differential. Sweet Jesus, 63.
Wow.
The strike differential is higher by one strike than Kahaya's output across the whole fight. 62 fights landed, 125 for Rosa. So that, that's when you had some fun.
Yeah, without a doubt. And Rosa moves on to bigger and better things. Thank God, because we need some new blood at bantamweight.
Yeah.
Devontae Smith versus Jamie Malarkey. Man,
Fight of
I
the
am
night for me.
delighted with my pick on this one. Great fight. Great fight. And I mean, both guys looking impressive. I think Devontae Smith clearly has that karma-worthy syndrome if he can dish it out, but he's not so good at taking the shots back. Whereas Jamie Malarkey just doesn't care. He was taking some bombs in that first round and just had a look on him like, yep, nope, this is warm-up, mate. I'm just getting the chin loose.
Yeah, bro. Like Smith's hands look fucking good, but Malarkey didn't give a fuck. And that whole finishing sequence was just beautiful.
Yeah,
But
I think for me, he kind of got a knuckle in the eye, but it was the shot to the liver that just paralyzed him. As soon as that shot
he
landed,
snapped that in.
Yeah. And Malarkey's good, man. I mean, he lost to Brad Riddell, but Brad Riddell is no joke. He's had a couple of really good wins since then, and he's fun, he's dogged, he's dirty, he's exciting, he brings a pace. I want to see more of this guy. He might not ever be a top-level fighter, but he's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. And he might
Definitely
have won me the picks this week. We're going to have to go through it, but I think he might have been my clincher because
That's what I get for picking Eagles' namesakes.
I'm pretty sure we were spot for spot on the next few fights down. Because let's just run through this quickly. We had Douglas Silva down Andrade. This knockout was brutal on Perillo. Guy just rolls back the years every time he fights. We're both the same on that. Stephanie Egger, we both picked. She got an impressive KO. I didn't actually see this fight. I missed the first two fights on the card because it started earlier than I was expecting. And Alejandro Perez got a submission. I didn't pick submission, but I picked Perez.
I actually picked Young. I thought Young was going to get it done on that one. I thought Young looked the better fighter until she got finished,
What was the finish like?
It was just ground and pounds, just got it down. How did she knock it down? Man. I'm going all the way back to the stress of this morning. So no, don't ask me. It was like a ground sequence finish. Just couldn't take any more strikes. I think, she had it down. Pretty much like could have laced the arm through the legs for a crucifix, but just kind of held inside control and just kept landing shots.
Fair enough.
Yeah, not a bad finish at all, but I didn't think Shanna Young looked that bad. Perez, well, I mean, shit, between the two of them, they probably got about 15 years in the UFC, but Eduardo's just way too old. This was a good fight. Great submission as well. So you missed the first fight.
I missed the submission, I missed the first fight.
Oh, beautiful. It was kind of like kind of armbarred him with his legs. Kind of looked like a straight armbar, but it was had a, I think it went down as a scarf holds arm lock.
Okay.
Uh, I've seen it. I can't tell you what it is.
Fair enough.
But a very good finish.
Yeah, prelims from. So obviously I'd seen the results of the first two fights, and I watched Fight 4. Gave me great hope, but didn't deliver in excitement so much on the main card. Sometimes this shit happens. In terms of picks, so I got Santos, I got Price, I got Jotko, I got Casey O'Neill, I got Jamie Malarkey, and then I got the last three. So Eggers, Andrade, and
yeah, I only got
Stefan.
7.
I didn't realize you went for Shana Young. Did you go for Jotko or Serkinov?
Jotko. No one went for Serkinov.
No one went for Serkinov.
Serkinov's own mother didn't put money on Serkinov.
Oh, man. Is what it is. Not the best of cards, but what can you do? We're on to the next one. We've got a hell of an October lined up for the UFC. And we got a little bit of news to touch on. I don't know if this had been announced when we were speaking, but we got to talk about Dan Hooker. I don't know if we already did, but if we have, we're going to talk about it again, because Dan Hooker is a badass motherfucking dude. He took the Makhachev fight on less than 4 weeks' notice, and his response: Islam is a man. He bleeds.
Yeah, I did read that one. That was pretty cool. You know what? Fuck it. If you're Dan Hooker, you're kind of getting fucked on the COVID restrictions in your base camp. So, yeah, turn around, take these fights. It all just makes sense in my head. You know, has he actually? I don't think there's no way he's gone back to New Zealand in between, right? He's just stayed out in America.
No, the whole reason that this happened is basically he doesn't want to fucking go back. There's nothing good to go back to. It's the same issue. It's slightly different in New Zealand. So what I understand is that New Zealand isn't in this all kind of like draconian lockdown that Australia's in, where everyone's got these apps on their phone. It literally like sends police out if you go within like 5 kilometers of your house. It sounds fucking crazy. So Volkanovski's basically, and Hooker, they just didn't want to go back. And that's why Volkanovski wants a quick turnaround, because he's just like, I can't really train. It was a nightmare to get the exemption. I've got nothing to go back to. I had a fucking great time doing the Ultimate Fighter here. I can stay here. I can train with good guys. I can use the UFC PI. Fuck it, let's do a quick turnaround. And I think that's what happened with Hooker. I mean, not to mention that it's way easier for him to go from America to Abu Dhabi than it is to go from New Zealand to Abu Dhabi under these current situations. So why not? I mean, from what I'm hearing, the whole City Kickboxing team is going to be moving over to the States if there's not a quick turnaround in this current situation. So who knows? Maybe he doesn't go back. Maybe he just says, fucking, I'll stay here, get the fam over.
Makes sense. And frankly, you know, as good as Makhachev is, everything that you would kind of consider Dan Hooker's kind of weaknesses, if he has them, I still think that this is a big test for Islam. He has not fought anyone anywhere near as good as Hooker. As good as Hooker. And Hooker has these fucking knees, you know? Oh, I'm excited for it.
This is the question in my mind, because we all talk about Makhachev being this prodigal son, but because he's not had that RDA fight, that real top 10 guy to make you go, okay, that's the guy and that's what I'm seeing. It's hard to say. Like, you know, the Drew Dober fight, very impressive. Drew Dober is an excellent fighter, but he's not a top 10 fighter. It's not the same thing. And this is why we need this fight. We're going to find out. I think Hooker's got weapons. I think he's so tough. I think mentally he's very tough. I think he won't get, particularly in a 3-round fight, I think he won't get disheartened if he gets taken down to the ground a few times. He's not going to, I don't think he's going to mentally break. And that's an important part of this. You know, when you're fighting these Dagestani wrestlers, you got to accept that you're probably going to end up in that position and be able to deal with it and reset yourself. You don't want to go to the ground. I think once you're on the ground, that round is probably over. But it only takes one of those knees. And Hooker's long, he's tall, he's hard to close in on. And although Makhachev has better, sort of not better, he has more ways and more creative takedowns. He can do things in the clinch. He can use judo a little bit more. He's not an exact copy of Khabib. He doesn't have the same explosivity on double and single leg takedowns in open space. And it was, Khabib was a specialist at that. He didn't sort of do as much in terms of, the clinch and all that kind of stuff. But he could land those every single time. And I don't think Makhachev is as explosive there. So I think there's more ways for him to take you down, but he's not as dangerous in that one sort of couple of elements that we saw with Khabib. And I think that gives Hooker something to work on. I think he can land strikes. I'd still have to probably pick Makhachev when we do the picks, but it's a good fight, and I hope Hooker wins. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, for sure, man. Do you want to do the picks in one fell swoop?
We can do. Should we do a different? Do you want to do sort of different? Because I'll still break it down into a separate video to release it later. Do you mind if we do the news and then we can do like a end and then restart? If you see what I mean.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good.
Kind of like when they do fucking daily shows and they just record the whole week's episode in one day.
As you should.
Well,
what else we got in the news then?
Have a look. I mean, Dustin Poirier has signed his contract to fight at UFC 269 against Oliveira. The fight has not been officially announced, but he has confirmed that he has signed his contract. And let's be honest, it's not like Oliveira is not going to sign the contract. The only potential hiccup was them not paying Poirier enough money. That seems to have been fixed. He seems happy with whatever he's getting. And we've got a main event on the final pay-per-view of the year of all main events. You said this back in July. This is the fight that you're looking forward to most this year.
I mean, yeah. Well, because I don't think the Pitbull and AJ McKee rematch is going to be this year. So yeah, this is definitely like the fucking big one for me. No two ways about it.
So yeah, very excited about that. We were just talking about people getting cut. Thomas Almeida has been cut. 5 have been announced today. So let me have a look. We've got Thomas Almeida's been cut. Emily Spitfire Whitmire has been cut. No surprise there. We touched on this and we thought that this was going to be the situation. Slow Mike Rodriguez.
Yep.
Antonio Arroyo.
There are no surprises in here, to be honest.
And finally, Sarah Alpar with an 0-2 UFC record.
I think she may have the fewest losses on that list within the organization.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, other than Almeida, I don't think anyone's got more than 2 wins on that list in the UFC.
In fact, the only person who had any wins on that list in the UFC was Slow Mike Rodriguez. And
Almeida.
And Almeida. And Spitfire Whitmire had 2 wins as well. But no surprises there. 5 fighters. We'll miss Almeida, but the rest, you're probably better off in a smaller promotion, let's be honest.
Yeah, for sure.
Working your skills. Apparently, Kevin Holland stopped a would-be car thief.
Pray tell.
I'm opening the story up. UFC star Kevin Holland runs down, apprehends alleged car thief in Texas. Okay, so this wasn't just after the fight, but this was a couple of days ago. It wasn't his car.
Well, obviously it wasn't the car thief's car. That's why he's a car thief.
No, but he didn't steal. Kevin Holland wasn't chasing after his own stolen car. So yeah, fair play to him.
I was being obtuse to comical effect, Matthew.
You were very effective at it. You fooled me, Josh. You fooled me.
Thank you.
Other things. Prochazka has basically told Santos to go fuck himself on his fight call out. I don't blame him. He's about to get a title shot. Why would you? And this is some news. We got to talk about Aspen Ladd.
Is this the Misha Tate thing? I haven't read it yet.
Well, firstly, she didn't fight because she missed weight again.
Yeah, we haven't. Yeah.
And couldn't compete. And she said she could have competed. The opponent basically said, fuck you, and said, I'm not going to fight you missing weight.
Which is fair enough.
Aspen Ladd blamed it on getting her period 2 days earlier. which is definitely more information than I wanted on the reason why she didn't miss weight. It doesn't matter what the reason is. You've missed weight several times, and you've also been hospitalized. You've had other weight cuts where you didn't even make the scale. You just had to say, I can't make it. So all of this is painting a picture that either you need to get a nutritionist, dramatically change the way that you cut weight, or you're fighting in the wrong weight class. At this point, it doesn't matter. You've got to get your shit together. And what Miesha Tate then said is that not only did she miss weight, but she also cheated on the scales and was probably about 139. How much credence do you put towards that?
I mean, they tried weighing in a fair few times there, didn't they? Look, I honestly, hand on heart, think that one time that DC did Towergate, he fucking cheated. And I think it happens a lot. Nick Diaz claimed that they gave GSP extra pounds in their fight. I think it's a shady business. I think shit happens. She definitely needs to sort her shit out because she's not moving up a weight class. I already know that's not happening for obvious reasons. So yeah, she's got to get her shit together. Periods will really fuck with your hormone balance. It's going to make it harder to do these things. But it's a good excuse off the back of many other excuses. So we need to see her consistently make weight.
Well, the reason Miesha Tate said that she cheated is that on the scale, she jumped across, she side-footed to one side. And then it seemed to be that she only raised one hand when they asked her to put both hands up, which suggested that she was using her other elbow to kind of lean on the curtain a little bit to try and relieve some of the weight. It has been done before. Who got accused of it last year? Jessica I got accused of this when she fought Calvillo. And it made sense because I remember her not looking that bad on the scales, jumping on, getting the weight, seeing it missed, and then went, oh, I'm just too faint. I can't even weigh in again. And I always felt the reason for that is because she couldn't risk getting on the scale an hour later and miscalculating it and being heavier than she was previously, which would have given the game away. So it probably does happen a lot. For Aspen Ladd, she is not a big enough name or has enough clout to be pulling this kind of shit at this point in her career. And there's a women's featherweight that desperately needs some women to fight in it. So all women who miss weight at bantamweight, fuck you. Just go up. We need people in this division. You're not going to get cut. You're not going to get cut.
They're not going to offer them fights at that weight. They got to go to Bellator.
That's that cigarette dead.
I saw that. I'm sorry, bro.
Other news I want to touch on, not even so much news, I suppose, but just things that I think worth mentioning. Have you seen or heard the controversy, while we're talking about controversy, over the last round between Anthony Joshua and Alexander Usyk?
No. What controversy?
So, in boxing, when it gets to 10 seconds, they take the counter away at the bottom. So, last the 15 seconds of the last round, it looks like Joshua is about to get finished by Usyk. Usyk is literally all over him. And then it gets to 10 seconds, the counter goes away, and 2 seconds later, they ring the bell as Anthony's being almost finished and dodging on the ropes and barely surviving. Now, there's two reasons that that's happened. Either one, the round did end at the correct point, and it was the clock on TV that was off by a few seconds. That's option one. Option two, the British promotion saw that their boy was getting fucked and tried one desperate thing to at least get him to the judges in a hit and hope maybe we can get a corrupt decision chance. But it's interesting, man. It's very interesting. And I've rewatched it back. I haven't timed it. So I haven't timed it to see if 3 minutes happens or 2 minutes 58 happened from when their clock, when the round started and yada, yada, yada. But it's something to look at. And in boxing, would not fucking surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, nothing would fucking surprise me when it comes to boxing. Boxing is ridiculous. Shit. I mean, we're probably going to see the rematch as well. I don't know. Who would you pick in the rematch, assuming it's the next fight happening early next year?
AJ would have to completely reinvent. Different people are different things. I feel that there's always going to be a speed issue, and Joshua loses too much power to try and get, and he'll just never be as quick. He doesn't have the same level of technique, and he's not good at fighting on the back foot. Somebody like Fury, I think, can beat Usyk quite effectively, but AJ has to learn how to be a counter puncher to deal with somebody like Usyk. Look at the way that Tony Bellew fought him, where he was slick. He'd set up traps to land counter shots.
Made him miss.
Unless AJ can do that, he's a guy that likes being on that forward foot, but he's not quick enough, and he's not able to establish the jab against a guy like Usyk effectively enough to be able to do that. He gets countered himself. So I don't really see him winning the rematch. I think it's a terrible idea. I think they have to, because that's, he's their cash cow. He's their boy. He's what's paying the bills at Matchroom Boxing, his pay-per-view numbers. But I think it's going to be 2 losses in a row, and I think he's going to be that way further down the mountain to try and get back. The only saving grace he's got is that even if he loses back-to-back to Usyk, I still think Fury beats Usyk, which means if Fury can win his next 2 fights, AJ's still got a route to be able to use his clout to fight Fury.
It won't be the same, though.
It won't be the same, and I'll be honest, Fury would have to really let himself go to be beaten by a guy like Joshua, because everything that you saw with Usyk is, although in different stature and different physicality and in different levels of effectiveness, it's all the same things that Fury can do and more. Fury can fight off the back foot, he can pressure, he feints, he's incredibly hard to pick up, he can go orthodox to southpaw. And you look at the issues that Usyk presented Joshua technically and in that southpaw position, it's going to be the same with Fury, except you've got an extra 9 inches of reach to deal with.
Yeah.
Some people are just, Joshua at 6'6" is an athletic freak, but Fury's more of an athletic freak who's got the style to beat a guy like Usyk. We'll see. A lot depends on whether or not Fury beats Wilder, which is coming up this weekend.
Oh, no shit. Is it really
this Saturday,
weekend?
man? It's this Saturday.
All right.
I've just got a bad feeling about that fight. We'll leave you on that note. I don't know. He should beat him. He's already beaten him twice, really. Just got that bad feeling, that feeling you get like, overlooking, overconfident, not taking your opponent seriously. I'm just getting those vibes. I hope I'm wrong.
Maybe. But we can pick up on this a little bit more tomorrow. We can do a pick for it.
Sounds good. For that, in that case, guys, we're going to leave you to it. We'll be back tomorrow for the pick show. And until then, bye, Dave. Bye, Laurie.
Bye, Dave.